this charity event you've got going on in Las Vegas at the Tom and the Mac Center, the Craig Jones Invitational. How many times have you nearly had a heart attack in preparation for this?
I mean,
And I'm not talking about your drug use. I'm talking about the stress of organizing an event.
well, it's the combination of those two that really is probably going to set me over the edge for this one. But again, above all, we're doing this for the children. We're doing this for charity.
Yeah.
Taking down Gabby Garcia, 6'4", 285-pound, greatest female athlete in the history of our sport. And I'm taking her down for charity and for OnlyFans.
When you started putting this tournament together, we'll get to the tournament section in a moment, but with the Gabby moment in particular, was that sort of essential to this to have like, okay, we have the serious grappling competition, but also we have a little bit of a, one hates to use the term freak show, but we have like a bit more of an out there contest with you involved to sort of seal the deal.
I want to know, are you implying that either Gabby Garcia or myself are not serious athletes?
Well, I heard there was a gender test that went wrong, but I don't know which one of you failed. But yeah, I think she's a 15-time world champion, am I right? And you've come second in basically everything you've ever done, except, well, certain areas not so much. But yeah, I think you could be serious if you wanted to be.
I mean, the gender test was delivered by me, so the results are up to my discretion. But yeah, I mean, it is a serious sporting spectacle that's going to take place August 16th and 17th in Las Vegas.
It's the seriousness that appeals to me, right? Because everyone says that you're a comic sort of guy and you don't take anything seriously, but yet you're doing this to raise money in the sport that you love, jiu-jitsu. Why do you think it has been then that certain people have sort of gone against that and not wanted to raise this prize money?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. The precedent in the sport was set many years ago, so it's hard to obviously break through to the people that are in control of the sport and how much they pay out. I think it's just an old business model. I don't think they're doing it out of spite or disrespect to the athletes, but a consequence of how they run that business causes consequences to the athletes financially. So I think it's just an old business model that hasn't really adapted to the times and compensated the athletes fairly for the sacrifice they put into the sport, but also the amount the sport has grown.
Were you surprised, and look, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but were you surprised when you went on, for example, the Joe Rogan experience, that Joe, who obviously has a massive interest in jiu-jitsu, was perhaps not as supportive or understanding of an idea of a new player coming in to rival ADCC necessarily to do so, to push this payment?
I mean, that's the thing with Rogan, right? So if you build a career fighting the man, ultimately if you become successful enough, you kind of become the man. So I would say Joe Rogan was super generous giving me his platform to sell the event, considering obviously the platform he has and his love for the sport and him supporting ADCC. So I can't thank him enough for really allowing me to do that and slam the $1 million on the table and go viral. But yeah, he didn't really grasp why we had to do it the same way and cause a conflict there. There has to be a conflict. Ultimately, the fans win. They get the best weekend of their life in terms of grappling. The athletes have to make a choice. ADCC, as a result of all this, have changed their business model to compensate the athletes and find the money. I would say, I think Joe Rogan probably now understands where we were coming from, given his comments about the Olympics and how much money they put in to production and how the athletes don't really get paid anything unless it's by, they happen to be representing a country that pays the medalists. So I think a lot of people had a problem with the Olympics, I think, because of the strange opening ceremony, which I personally was a massive fan of. That
right. I'm surprised you weren't involved.
That was an excellent show. But
even the bit with the...
That was my favorite bit.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I think like people have a problem with the money spent on production if they're spending it on outrageous things like that. But yeah, hopefully now, given his opinion on the Olympics, I think he would understand where the athletes are coming from. ADCC, obviously, grappling's not a $1 billion industry, but they're selling out an arena and selling streaming rights. They, in my opinion, can compensate the athletes.
What has the reaction been like from the organizers of ADCC?
I mean,
obviously not great.
Not yet. Not too great. Not as warm or welcoming as I had first hoped. But again, yeah, we have to clarify because ADCC has been around for, I think 2028 will be 30-year anniversary of ADCC. So in that sense, the guy that started it, Sheikh Tarnoon, he used to have his people run the early events. Ultimately, it came down to a different organizer every 2 years. Mo Jassim did such a good job, they allowed him to take care of the organization over multiple. So I think this will be his third event. So when we say I got to be careful how I talk about blanket ADCC, because really my problem comes with the current organizer and also his right-hand man, Seth Daniels, who does throw death threats at me.
Yeah.
It's really, we should have got the authorities involved
Right.
in those death threats. I feel like we could have had some assistance in dealing with them.
Right.
We might know the right people here today.
Why didn't you? I mean, I know you're not like a narc necessarily. You're not going to rat them out to the cops, but why exactly did you not do anything with that? You know, obviously you did your public relations war on social media, which I have to say has become like even more crazy since this whole thing has started. But why didn't you do anything with that?
Well, I mean, it was embarrassing enough. You know, like if you throw a shot like that and the whole community tears you down, you have to delete your account. I feel like that is indeed punishment enough. Obviously, there would be worse punishments out there.
For sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's copped abuse, you know, like he has copped a lot of abuse for that. And I do enjoy that. I'd rather him be free to continue to do these things. But I don't know if they've hired a PR company or something. Obviously not the same PR company we use, but they are completely silent on all matters, which probably leads me to believe either that was their PR decision or they are in fact plotting my death. I've had some creamy substances in my mouth in my time, but none as creamy as forged Irish stout. From Sturgis to Sligo, the creamiest stout on earth.
Almost certainly. The tournament aspect of it, right? You know, talk to me behind that, how hard it was getting athletes involved. When you finally got them involved, how not relaxing, but how much of a weight off your shoulders that was. And talk to me about the two tournaments, over 80 and under 80, and what they're bringing to the jiu-jitsu fan base.
Yeah, so obviously you go onto Joe Rogan, you slap down $1 million, it goes viral. It is, for some reason, people don't seem to take me too seriously. I really don't understand why, because most of the times
I think it's a shame.
I'm 100% honest. It just happens to be that people don't believe me. And again, I don't know why, but yeah, it was hard at the start to convince people. I wanted to put it out there what we were doing and let the athletes start to bite into it and see if they were interested or not. Obviously, $1 million to them goes a long way in the jiu-jitsu community because we're paying 100 times what ADCC pays. So you'd have to win ADCC 100 times to basically even our prize money, which of course is impossible. So the athletes did jump at that, but they were fearing consequences from ADCC. In the sport of jiu-jitsu, there have been events that have existed that haven't paid the athletes. So they do have some trauma from the big show coming in and promising all these things and not delivering. Luckily for us, we had that money to begin with, which is part of the reason I showed it on Rogan. I wanted them to see that basically, look, he's got $1 million cash. I was going to bring fake cash for safety reasons, but I thought Rogan would be like, hey, this is fake. And
Yeah.
And actually, it would
He'd have ratted you out straight away.
It'd be very
Truth teller.
counterintuitive to my course. But yeah, once we started getting some of the more legitimate athletes across, first two jumped across with the Tucker brothers. Great choices, really good local Texas boys, homeschooled, God-loving, talented, hardworking athletes. Basically, I mean, all the things that I would say I'm not. So
Right.
for them to jump on board really balanced out any damage I've done.
Well, they have a military commitment to their cause, right? Whereas you're more of a, I don't want to say you're less strict in your training and diet regimen, but obviously we've seen you traveling across the world here, getting yourself into sticky situations. And
I'm feeling a bit sticky myself right now, to be honest.
certainly in one part of my body, but not the part you may expect. You've been like this before, I think. This was the last time I saw you dressed like this.
I dress like this? I mean, yeah, I do draw a lot of inspiration from martial arts icon David Carradine, but I don't think I go out in public too often like this.
Right. Well, I tell you what, I think these clothes are starting to feel a little bit stick on me, don't you?
It is quite hot in here under the bright lights.
Would you join me, Craig?
All right, it's time.
I think that's probably the worst audition I've ever seen in the 25-year history of Thunder. Come with me.